So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. And want to wish everyone a happy Aloha Friday. If you are joining us for the very first time, you don't need to adjust your screens, your monitor. I am indeed wearing my Hawaiian shirt. This is a special Hawaiian shirt. This was a gift from Valerie about a year or so ago, a little longer. So thank you very much. I always try to wear this at the very least when I know I get to see Valerie. And PSG of Mercer County, the professional service group of Mercer County, is a group that is here for you. Anybody that is in any kind of career transition, it doesn't really matter why. It could be some sort of organizational change at your company could have happened. There certainly may be a number of people that are being affected by that more in the recent weeks because of the impact of the coronavirus. It could also be that you're making the adjustment yourself. You want to take your career in your own hands. It's time for you to do something new in your career. And so you are taking that opportunity right now. Also on the calendar, today is May 1st. I can't believe it's May already. So happy May Day. May Day, May 1st, in some cultures actually celebrates the first day of summer. And we know that's not quite the case. We're probably halfway through spring right now. And but that's what May 1st does celebrate in some cases. I think here in the United States, our emotional first day of summer is Memorial Day. I guess that's what I'm looking forward to. And the other bit of history about today, 89 years ago, in 1931, the Empire State Building opened officially for the very first time. So that's when it officially was inaugurated in the tallest building in the world at that time. So pretty special events. Here at PSG of Mercer County, we have a lot of resources to help all of you or anybody who are in any kind of career transition. And for one thing, we do have our website. Our website is psgofmercercounty.org. And it's over 120 pages of resources. We have a lot of content on our website. On the right sidebar now of our website, we do absolutely have our YouTube channel, a link to our YouTube channel. And in our PSG of Mercer County YouTube channel are currently all of the videos that we have from all of our presenters since we've been going virtual. So if there's a topic that you missed, or maybe you're looking for a topic of interest in watching a presentation, you can watch it at your own pace, and please watch our YouTube channel. So that may be of interest, psgofmercercounty.org. And I'll just take this moment to remind you, please put your speakers, your computer on mute. Do hear a little bit of background noise, and just so it's not to all of us. Another resource we have is our LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group, it's a little bit of a private group. It's just us, people who are members and visitors of PSG of Mercer County, but that is the name of the group. So if you are not yet in our group, please feel free to go find the group and join us. It's called PSG of Mercer County. We have over 1,500 members in our PSG group on LinkedIn, and those are all people that have been through our program, have been to our meetings, are attendees of us. And so it's a good chance that once you join and connect with people in our PSG of Mercer County group, there's a good chance they will write back to you if you contact them. Sometimes we get a little concerned when we reach out to people that they're not as open or willing to connect, but for the most part, the folks in our group do that. Now, typically, we validate anyone who makes a request to join our group. We validate through our our offline mailing list. That's usually when you sign in on our in-person meeting. So it's a little harder for me to validate if you are visiting us, for instance, today for the first time and we haven't met. So what I would invite you to do, join our group. You'll be put in pending status, but then send an email to us at psgofmercercounty@gmail.com. psgofmercercounty@gmail.com, and just let us know you attended one of our online programs, you've made the request to the group, and at least that way I know that I'll happily let you in. Again, we're trying to keep out the list collectors and the name collectors and such, so that becomes very important that we keep it really for our use. A little bit for our ground rules today. In just a moment or two, I will turn our meeting over the screen over to Valerie. She is our presenter. And later today, she will return control back to me, but she will be displaying all of the slides. I ask that you do keep your audio on mute. There's still some people that seem to have it in the background running. Maybe you're the caller. I don't know what the key is for doing that. But there is background noise sometimes for some of us. We're just trying to keep the background noise from disturbing others who are on the call. You're welcome to keep your video on or off. That's up to you. You may want to keep it off in case sometimes we find it a little distracting. That's your call. And we are a webinar, but we want to make this as interactive as we can. So we will be using chat, and chat is the option. It's a writing option for asking questions. So on your screen right now, or the GoToMeeting screen, on the upper right corner, there are a couple of icons. You see there's an icon, looks like a couple of people, says 72. So that's how many people are on the call right now. You can see everyone who's on the call if they've identified themselves. And just to the right of that is a little like cartoon bubble. A couple people are starting to write chats already, and that's fine. So I'll ask you, just keep the chats as much as possible to questions related to Valerie, especially if you're going to send it to everybody. So what we're trying to do is make it a little bit easier for me. I'm going to be going through the chats. Valerie has a couple of spots in her program where she's going to take an intermission and answer the questions. I'm going to read through them. But we're trying to, please minimize your welcomes and good mornings and connect with me's on LinkedIn kind of messages, because it makes it a little harder for me to make sure that I get all of the questions that are valuable as well. So just ask that you extend that little bit of courtesy to help us through the process. Okay, so those are the ground rules, nice and simple, and we will get ourselves started. And by saying, I am just pleased this morning to welcome our speaker, Valerie S. Williams. Valerie Williams is a project management professional, a Scrum Master working as a contractor at Bristol-Myers Squibb, but stays active with networking groups when she can. Valerie earned her Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, and started her IT career by programming in Lotus Notes and teaching computer skills, including Microsoft Project. After her first transition in networking with high school friends, Valerie changed her career by moving into a new industry and working with a startup company. After her second transition in networking, she managed multiple programming teams and several support groups, which included international team members. After Valerie's third transition, she learned that the process for looking for a new career changed immensely. While attending multiple networking events and seminars, she heard many great speakers, each of whom focused on a specific topic. To help manage all the tasks associated with looking for a new career in the 21st century, Valerie created a to-do list and combined the tips that she picked up from each speaker. Valerie will share many of those ideas and tasks and tips with you today. So PSG of Mercer County is just very pleased to welcome back one of our very best friends, Valerie S. Williams. Just give me one moment, Valerie, as I make you the presenter. And right there, so you should see that coming up. And then you can share your screen. There's Valerie's face.
Right. I am sharing my screen. Can you see it?
I can see it. So if anyone wants to give a thumbs up, not a lot of people have their camera on right now. That's fine, but that's fine. There's a thumbs up.
Did I just lose it? Or can you still see it?
It looks like it just went off for a second, yeah.
Try that again. I was trying to share, show the people.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's
Yeah,
nice when I can see people, because then I feel like I'm not talking to myself. And when I start rapping, it might be even more disturbing.
There's a little button along the top. It may be saying either who's talking or everyone. You can change that to the option of everyone. You'll see a band across either the top or side of faces, if that's what you need to see. Yeah. Right now I have it on who's talking, so I see your face.
Okay. Can you see my face and my screen?
Yep. Yeah.
Excellent. There we go. Now I can see faces. I feel like I'm not alone.
In your room. Very good. It's all yours.
It's all me. So if David says, I'm a friend, you can thank David for this presentation because he was the one who encouraged me to put this all together and present it. So thank you, David, for this nudge. As David said, you will get all of the slides and all the extra materials. So feel free to take screenshots if you want. Otherwise, look for the PDF. A little housekeeping. Again, the slides will be provided. Feel free to ask questions. David said he'll monitor it, but we did build in a couple of the slides to actually do a little Q&A and get more tea or coffee. As you can see, I got my big mug here for me, so I'm ready to go. If you hear something in the background, that's just my fan. Just don't worry about it. Just ignore it. So one of the things that we've learned, and all of us are at different states within our transition, is that there's going to be a lot of information that you're going to receive, and it will depend whether or not that information is really viable or helpful to you. So I give access or credit to Marty Latman. He is the one who talked about it depends. So if you ask me a question, that may be my answer. It's not to be facetious. It just means it depends on whether or not it will actually mean or speak to you, or if it will help. So a lot of that will be it depends. One of the things that we've noticed is that really the best thing for you to do is to be prepared. And a lot of this information will help you to be prepared, to get better prepared. So I like this quote, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So if you get some of these things involved or created or set up and ready to go, if someone meets you, you can hand over your resume or you can hand over your T letter, and we'll talk about what that is. But you'll be able to actually have your documentation ready to go. Okay. Being the project manager that I am, I broke this down into tasks, and I did put it into a project plan. So these are the topics that we're going to cover: acknowledgement, regroup, self-assessment, financial assessment, organization and tracking, the resume, additional documents that will be helpful for you, branding, sample documents, jobs, search sites, training, preparing for interview, stress reducers, and again, you're going to be hired. So you're going to get there, just hang in there. All of us have different paths and different amounts of time that we've been in between positions, but in the end, you got a position and you will get another one. Okay. So as my presentation said, I was transitioned 3 times. The first time that felt like that, I was doing training and I was at a site and they told me I had to come back to the office, which never happens. Not a good sign. That was on a Monday. On a Wednesday, I was out of work. The second time, I was tired. I was, we knew it was coming. We didn't know exactly when it was going to come. But when it happened, we're like, whew, okay, it's over. So sometimes when you know it's coming, it's a bit stressful waiting for that hammer to drop. The third time, I was so stressed out and really kind of burned out that when it came, I was like, whew, thank goodness. And I was actually going around and saying goodbye to everybody. It's like, oh, they got me. It's my turn. I got laid off. And people were like, are you serious? And I said, yeah, really. It really did happen. I'm out. But it was time. I had been looking. I just hadn't found anything before they got to me. But I was relieved to go. So the first thing you want to talk about is your state of mind, because everyone has different feelings when they are transitioned, when they laid off, when they fired, whatever the case may be. Even if you leave on your own, you have all these different feelings. So acknowledge your feelings because they are real, they are valid, they are yours. You also want to figure out who your support system is and get those people around you as quickly as possible, because they will be your lifeline and they will help you. Sometimes your support system may be these networking groups, which is why I continue to go to them. How do you regroup? We can talk about that as we move forward. How do you stay positive? Because positivity is the one thing that's going to keep you going. If you allow yourself to get down, you won't be able to keep going, and it will get you depressed and moody, and it just makes it even harder and takes longer for you to get a job. One of the things what we're going to talk about is what actually drives you, so you know what type of position you're going to be looking for moving forward. And I like to laugh. So you might see me, again, I'm talking to myself, although I'm talking to all of you. So thank you again for the faces that are there. I try to find things that make me laugh. So if I start laughing in the middle of this because it makes me, I think it's funny, it makes me laugh. It might not make you laugh, but find something that makes you laugh because it does make your life a little easier. It makes things better to deal with. The most important thing, leave your house. Get out. Get dressed, put on a little makeup, do your hair, but leave the house, because if you're in the house day in, day out, especially with the COVID-19 going on, everybody's like, I'm going stir crazy, I want to get out. Put your mask on, walk around your neighborhood. Just do something to leave the house and break up the monotony. It really, really, really does help. Okay, so that's our acknowledgement. Now, how do we regroup? I'll give you a moment to read that. Go back to when you were a little kid. Remember, you wanted to be a policeman, an astronaut, rock and roller, fireman. You wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer. You had all these dreams. I wanted to be Pele. It didn't quite happen, but I really did want to be Pele. Oh my God, my fan just died. Gotta plug it up. So one thing I did is I talked about, what do I like to do? Because that's really important. I looked at my last job. Apparently I didn't charge this last night, David. I looked at my last job and I tried to figure out what I really like to do about that job. And then I also decided, am I frozen? Uh-oh.
Just click on the screen and that'll return to control.
Yeah, it got a little wonky there. I did try to figure out what I didn't like to do. So remember I talked about how stressed out I was and what was happening and all the other different things going on. That was one of the things. I didn't want to be as stressed out as I was before. I thought about all the great things that I liked about my job, and I thought about all the things I didn't like about my job. And that helped me to really try to figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. And it was really a godsend. Okay. The way I did that was by getting a piece of paper and just writing what I liked on one side, what I didn't like on the other side. And it just helped me organize my thoughts. And I went through that process. So that was regrouping. What I then did is self-assessment tests. There are a lot of them out there. They're provided by different companies and different organizations. I listed a few here. I have no affiliation with any of these, and you might find other ones that you like better. But they give you an idea of where your skills are, what you're looking for, suggestions. I, again, would say take some of those with a grain of salt, because sometimes when you think about it, those suggestions are well-meaning, but that doesn't mean that's exactly what you want to do. Even if that's something you were good at, doesn't mean that's what you want to do in the future. So take those with a grain of salt. But those links are in the PDF. After your assessment, your finances. Now, one of the things that will stress all of us out, and I know that's why they're saying, let's open up the country, because financially, we want to make sure we can pay our bills. We have all these different monthly expenses, whether that's our mortgage, our car, we want to eat, electric and gas, all those things. So what I did was I sat down and I wrote down all of my monthly expenses, everything that I had to, well, I already had a list, but I wrote everything down and I added things to it, like going out and things like that. And then I started to look at, could I call that credit card and get my interest rate reduced? Could I call and, get my cable reduced somehow? Like, do I need 3,000 channels? I don't think so. So I made all those different things, or all those different phone calls, to figure out how I could really reduce my expenses while I was out of work. And that helped. I looked at my savings. I looked at my 401. Most importantly, I actually talked to my financial accountant and my advisor, because I wanted to make sure if I needed money out of my 401, I could get it. I am not a financial advisor, so take this with a grain of salt, speak to your own. But I found out for me, because of my age and how much was in there, so on and so forth, that if I took money out of my 401, I would be penalized. I would actually end up losing more than gaining. So I ended up not going down that route. But those are things you want to look into and speak to different people who are experts in that field. Not your mailman, unless he has a degree. You want to talk to people who actually know, A from B when you're talking about finances. Okay, so that was one of the things I did to prep myself. I'm trying to see why I'm having such difficulty. There we go. Okay, so organization and tracking. So I'm going to say, if you know this movie, there is no spoon. Okay, see, I laugh at myself. You don't have to laugh at me. I don't see anybody smiling on the pictures there. But when we are out of work, the first thing we want to do is get back into a full-time job immediately because we need benefits, right? That's what everybody's thinking. Sometimes what's out there, though, are not full-time positions. Sometimes there are... David, I'm getting some feedback. Are you hearing it? Okay. If you're on, can you mute your phone? But what you can also look into are part-time positions or contract positions. They may be able to help you get over the hump until you can find a full-time position, or it could be a part-time position that may lead to a full-time position, and same with a contract position. One of the things that we found out among ourselves when we were talking, that someone said if you go to some place like Starbucks, and again, check this out because this may have changed, but if you're working at Starbucks, even a part-time position, they offer benefits. So just different things you can look into. You're not stuck because you can't find a full-time position. There's options out there. David does a great presentation about how to own your own business. There's things out there that talks about franchising. Do you want to get into a franchise position? Nonprofits are out there. Some people say if you work with nonprofits, you don't make as much money, but it's much more rewarding. Again, there's your list of things you want to do and things you don't want to do. Look at the rates. I don't know. That might work for you. One thing I always hear is that I want to get into pharma and I want to go to J&J or Bristol Myers Squibb or Covance, one of these big companies. But looked into some of the smaller companies. They also have options that will allow you to get in. And sometimes it's easier to get into a smaller company and then have more responsibility, and then you can upgrade, for lack of a better term, to a larger company if that actually makes you feel, if that's one of your goals. One of the other things you might want to do is also look into alternative industries. So every industry has finance, every industry has computers, every industry has certain tasks that are transferable from one company to another, from one industry to another. So if you give that a perusal or some ideas or some thoughts, you might actually open yourself up to a broader amount. One of the things I found with having the PMP, project management is everywhere. So that's helpful. Yes, you may get there where they might say they want X amount of years of knowledge within that industry, but you never know. They may actually take someone outside of the industry as well. So that's one of your options. The next thing is to get a calendar. I live and die by my calendar. My friends know, and they know because they'll say, did you check your calendar? Because I say yes to everything, and I want to go everywhere. So first thing they'll say is, did you check your calendar? Hey, I have something coming up. Did you check your calendar? So for me, the calendar is really important for family events. Anything that we're doing that I know I want to make sure I don't miss or double book myself, I put on my calendar. It's also good for you to get out and volunteer because, again, it allows you to get out the house, and that's something you want to do. So you'll see a couple links there for volunteering. Those are companies that you can go to that will give you ideas of where you can go to volunteer your time. Any of the networking groups will be more than happy to take you as a volunteer to help you get through this time and to give back and to give you something to look forward to. It also looks really good on your resume. And when you're in an interview, because again, you will get an interview, when they ask you what you're doing, you can say, oh, well, I've been volunteering here and this, that, and the other, because for whatever reason, people think we're sitting around doing absolutely nothing when we're looking for a job, because a job is a full-time position, which doesn't really count. But I digress. Anyway, we have the networking opportunities. If you haven't met Alex Freund, make sure you do. He's always at these networking organizations and meetings and things like that. But he has also put together a list of networking organizations, and you can search for them. Will every networking opportunity be the best opportunity for you? Maybe, maybe not. So sometimes you have to go to those meetings. Sometimes you can look for them based on the industry type of meeting, and see if you like it, if you like the vibe, if you like what they're doing, if they're providing feedback for you, whatever the case may be. Go to the meeting, and I would suggest go a couple times so you get a different feel. They have different ways that they actually manage their meetings. But on Alex Freund's site, he has a whole list of all those meetings, and you can get a good idea of what's out there. Okay. And again, you have organizational industry meetings outside of the networking groups. And then you have your interviews. You will get interviews. You want to make sure you write down your interview so you get there on time. Right day, right time. Now, one of the things that I have offered is a tracking spreadsheet. And you're supposed to do this anyway when you're out of work. If they audit you, you want to make sure you have this information. But this helps in multiple ways. When you are out of work, you are submitting resumes 1, 3, 5 a day. So you need to be able to keep track of them, because you will get a phone call to say, hey, this is Nancy. I'm calling you about your resume. And you're thinking, Nancy who? And you're thinking, which job? What did I put in there? So if you put some of this information in a tracking spreadsheet, it's easy for you to actually keep track of it, look at it, figure out what's going on, and maybe you can get up to speed a lot faster. So I keep that in there. I also, within my spreadsheet, keep track of my recruiters. Now, I had 3 different recruiters I was working with. I wasn't calling them every day. I was rotating them 1 a week just to see what they would have. And I kept track of when I called them, you know, what we discuss, if we discuss a particular job description or job that I saw that I wanted them to submit my name for. But I kept all that information together, and it helped me track them. Everyone asks how many recruiters should I have? I would say at least 3 or more. Consider this, you are one person talking to 3 recruiters. They are 1 recruiter talking to how many people? So you want to kind of rotate them. One of the things that we also learned from Irene Cappuccino from the Breakfast Club is she said, if you reach out to a recruiter and ask that recruiter if they're having difficulty placing someone, they can actually share that information with you, and then you could look within your networking group and your friends and people that you work with or you run across during your organizational meetings, and say, oh, well, I might have someone name, and provide that name to that recruiter. And by helping that recruiter, when they see another job that might fit you or fit a couple people, you may pop up to the top of the pile. Just an idea. Another thing I kept track of was my training. I was looking for training, and this is where the tracking of your job submissions come into play, because one of the things I noticed was that they were asking a lot for Agile certifications. So I was able to go back, not to the state, but the federal, and say, hey, if I had this certification, I could have had these 5 jobs. And that allowed me to get training through BTII. And that training allowed me to get my become a Scrum Master. And that did help me get a job. Now, what training is going to be appropriate for you, I don't know. Again, it depends. Are those certifications really required and necessary? Again, it depends. So a lot of things are going back and forth, but we'll see what happens. But keep an eye on that, and then you'll see whether or not that is actually helpful for you. I'm getting a little feedback, so if somebody has joined, can you please mute your phone?
I'll look at it.
Thank you. Okay. The other thing you want to do is get your salary information together. If you have gone through that whole process of figuring out what your finances are and what you can and cannot live on, if you know what your salary is, the high and low end to move forward will help you greatly, especially when you're dealing with a recruiter and they're looking for a position for you. A lot of them will ask you what your salary range is. Depending on the recruiter or the job, it will dictate how they group it. So that's why I say hourly, daily, monthly, weekly, yearly, have all those rates together and be ready to go at any point in time. It really makes a big, big difference. Make sure you're not going even though you have a low end, you want to try to stay away from your low end if that means you're going to have to get a second job. So keep that in mind when you're actually going through your salary discussions. Again, I'm not an expert, and I'm sure there's somebody who has done a presentation on negotiating salaries. I can't think of who it is, but David's nodding his head, so listen to that person. But get that information together. As far as travel is concerned, I kept track of everything that I did, every place I went, every meeting that I attended, the mileage. In 1 year, I put in over 2,000 miles, just in 1 year, in looking for a job. And you can, when somebody says, oh, well, what were you doing? It's like, oh, I was doing this, I was doing it. And, I put over 2,000 miles in looking for a job, and going to all these different meetings and meeting people and doing X, Y, and Z. So that helped. At one point, we were able to write that off on our taxes. I don't think I'm able to do that anymore, but I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a tax consultant. I don't play one on TV. So make sure you talk to someone about that. See if it's something you can write off. But at least it gives you a little bit of a talking point when you're actually in your different interviews. Again, because you will get an interview. Here is a link that I found about how you can figure out how much to charge if you are a consultant. Again, talk to somebody who knows about this a little, or not a little, but a lot better than I do. But there's a link where you can actually go and figure it out. And I just put an example here. I never thought I would be a consultant. I tried it because I wanted to switch industries. I still wanted to do project management, but I wanted to do something different. And for me, this was a foot in the door, and it's been a really good experience. It is a little stressful in certain ways because, as you know, when you come to the end of your contract, you're like, oh, now I'm back on the market looking again. So as you start coming to the end of your contract, you're either looking within the company or working with another recruiter to try to find your next position. So there's pros and cons to everything. That's why I say always write a list. Okay. So that was our organization and tracking. And now we're going to take a little intermission. So David, before we go on, and feel free to go get a snack, have a bathroom break. I found this one, David.
Are you suggesting I take a bathroom break? Is that what you were saying?
No, I was going to say if there's any Q&A that I can look at.
That's a cute bathroom sign. There's all sorts of, I think it covers everybody.
I know, it's really exciting when I found that one.
People with two heads, gladiators, wow. I don't know what the gladiators restroom looks like. So there are a couple of questions that have come in. One from Mark. As a suggestion, you may want to check out Trello.com for keeping organized. He finds that it has worked for him and it's pretty flexible. So another resource that some folks may want to look at. Another question, how do you find a good recruiter, but not the people that call you in a bunch?
Okay. Here, I'm going to say, here's the way I found my recruiters. So one was recommended to me by a friend. Another I found by attending it was actually a PMI meeting. And of course they had, several different recruiting companies there. And I talked to a couple of them, and the people I spoke to, I just felt very comfortable with. So it's just going out, getting out of your house, meeting people and talking to them. I am a little bit more leery of the ones that reach out to me, depending on what they offer me. Part of that is because sometimes they are reaching out to me and they are offering jobs that, to me, says they clearly did not read my resume. they tag me because of a keyword that they found within my resume, and then they offer me a job. So I really try to lean towards the ones who have reached out to me and seem to have actually read my resume, if they've like a cold call, if you will. I think those are the three that I stick with. Someone who was recommended to me, somebody that I knew from a previous, I don't think I mentioned that, a previous company. I knew of someone in HR that went to a recruiting company. I reached out to her. And then going to a organizational conference, I spoke to multiple recruiters, and I met one that I connected with, I liked. And then, like I said, if somebody reaches out to me through a cold call, but it seems like they actually did read my resume and they are offering a job that fits not just a title, but the content of my resume, those are the people that I follow up with.
And certainly there's a value in maintaining relationships with those good recruiters that you find. Keep them close to you as you would any professional connection that you have.
Yep.
Okay, and next question. Do you basically use Excel to track your activities?
I did. You don't have to. I found it easier for me, especially because I was getting totals, like those 2,000 miles. I was able to filter and search for it a little bit faster. But you can use Word, you can use OneNote. OneNote has become my friend. I'm not sure if you have heard of OneNote. If you have Windows, it's on there. I actually didn't start using OneNote until I started at BMS, actually. And I used to take all my notes in there when I'm typing or, in meetings or, even when I was on my interviews. I said if I asked if I was doing an interview over the phone, I would take all my notes and comments in there because I can type faster than I can write. And my handwriting is horrible.
So another question is, did you say that you use a recruiter to get more consulting work?
I would, and hopefully I can stay with the consulting company I'm with. Can I plug them?
Sure.
Alpha Consulting.
Yeah.
So I'm working with Alpha Consulting, and it's mostly within IT for me, and in project management. However, I will say that, remember I was saying if you talk to people and people know where you are, one of the people in the networking groups that I was talking to, I recommended her to a different consulting company because they focused on their particular, I think on marketing, and I'm blanking out on that marketing group. I can't remember. And then another young lady, I was at a networking event, met someone, was trying to get a job for myself, and they said no, she wasn't looking for this, a project manager, but she could use someone in finance. And through my networking, I knew somebody in finance, and I connected the two of them together. So you can end up being a consultant, if you will, by connecting people who have a want and a need.
And since we're on the topic of a recruiter, how would you vet a recruiter, at least to find the good ones?
I got really lucky. I did do Google searches for them to see if anything popped up wildly inaccurate. I'm trying to think of the other site that I looked at. I'm blanking out on the site. If I can think about it, I'll tag it at the end. But it allows you to look up different companies and get information about each of those companies. Some of it you have to take with a grain of salt because you never know, like, is it a company person who's putting that information out there, or to do a review, or is it actually somebody who is disgruntled for whatever reason? So some of you kind of take with a grain of salt, but word of mouth and references go a long way.
Sure. And another question came in. I'm not really sure the intent of this question. Can you offer your opinion on career coaches? So I'm not sure if you're asking for a reference for career coaches or just do we like them or not? So the simple answer is I like career coaches. I don't know let's see what Valerie's opinion, and then I'll let you know where you can find some.
Yeah. I think career coaches, again, it depends where you are, what you're doing, but I think they can be very helpful. especially if you're struggling with where you want to go, what you want to do. You made your list, you're still not sure, or to help you get clarity on your list, and or to maybe offer you suggestions that you hadn't even considered. I've spoken to some career coaches. They have provided some feedback, or they would ask me a question that would make me rethink something that I thought I had already made up my mind on. So definitely, I think a career coach is there with everything. They're good ones and they're bad ones. I'm sure anyone that, so we have Gary in our group and we have Alex in our group who do different things. But one of the things we want to make sure we do is, if you're getting a recommendation, know who you're getting that recommendation from. And they are not going to give you somebody who's bad.
Yep, sure. And certainly also in the PSG group is Alan Kirshner as a career coach. If you look at the PSG of Mercer County website, which is psgofmercercounty.org, there's a menu item right on the top called resources. And so those, of course, are just a bunch of resources. And there's two columns. One column is career resources, and there are a list of career coaches that are there that I would simply call friends of PSG of Mercer County. All have a very good reputation. Another career coach in the group is Gary Landy. And you'll also find career coaches sometimes specialize. Not all of them are generalists, and some are. So you have to understand exactly the type of resource that you're looking for. Let's see, a reminder. So OneNote, which Valerie mentioned, it's actually part of Microsoft Office 365. So if you have Office 365, thanks, Dara, for that. If you have Office 365, you get that included. I think that's it with, New Start Career Network, of course, is another organization. They provide free career coaching. If you live in New Jersey, you're long-term unemployed and you're age 45 and older. Long-term unemployed, they typically count as 6 months, but they're a little flexible. And if you're 44, not 45, don't worry about it. They want to be as helpful as possible. Okay. So those are the questions. Hopefully people have come back from other things that they did in intermission, and we could just move along. In the meantime, folks, feel free, as other slides come through, about asking your questions in chat, and we'll catch up with them in the next intermission.
Okay. And I did see one other thing from Gary before I go on. He said he was audited once, and having that
So
Excel
I was not
spreadsheet
going to let
helped.
everyone know Gary was audited, but I saw that.
But he put it out there for everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's true.
So he said the Excel spreadsheet helped. So just a nice option.
Right. I believe under the 2018 tax code change, job search expenses are not included or may just be wrapped up in the standard deduction. So do speak to your tax professional. It may not be clear that they are deductible the way they used to be.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm still bitter. Okay, so moving on to our next slide, our master resume. And Gary talks about this all the time. So Gary Landy, we're giving him a lot of kudos because he deserves it. So what is a master resume? A master resume is everything in the kitchen sink, just like my little cartoon says. So you're going to have your summary in there. You're going to list every single job you ever had. It's always easy to delete things versus add them later. So everything you have, everything you did, I want to say make sure you spell out acronyms. Acronyms can mean different things within the industry, and they definitely can mean something different across different industries. So I put one of mine here because I just think this is hysterical. When I worked with a company, we had AE was our acronym and SAE. And within our company, it was application engineer and senior application engineer. However, we were also supporting pharma. So in pharma, AE is adverse event and SAE is serious adverse event. That means something has gone absolutely wrong. So here we're coming in as experts and we're putting ourselves as an adverse event. So but those in pharma, you probably think that's funny. Anybody else, you're probably like, I don't get it. But for us who were in it, it was cheerful. And it was an icebreaker sometimes, and they would look at me and was like, yeah, we know, adverse event. List all your certifications and licenses, list all your education, your technical skills. If you've done any presentations or publications, you can list those as well, even if you've written a book. I know in one of my networking groups, there was a gentleman here, I've written a book on, I don't want to mess it up, so because it was at a higher educational level, and it was like scientific, so I'm not going to mess up exactly the name of the book. And then there's a place that you can do badges, and those badges I think are helpful, especially in your email. And I probably need to move that to a different slide. But they can actually let you see that you have been, or confirm that you have been certified for different things like PMI, my PMP, or my Scrum Master. One of the other things that you want to do with this, enlist your volunteer groups, but also the word cloud apps. These apps are going to allow you to take your resume or even a job description and put into one of these apps, and it'll show you what keywords pop up, which makes a big difference when you are actually going through and creating your resume. So everything that you're going to do is you're going to create your master resume, and then when you go to submit your job or your resume for a specific job, you're going to tweak that resume so that you highlight the task and the experience that you have had. You're not lying, you're just highlighting certain experiences associated with that job. And the word cloud apps will allow you to find those keywords. So you would take the actual job description, put it in that word cloud app, find out which keywords pop up the most, and then you can reconfigure and redo your your resume so that it fits or includes those keywords from the job description, so that you pop up higher in those applicant tracking systems, which we'll see a little bit later. But you're going to keep a version for each job that you submit it for, because every time you submit your job, submit your resume for a job, you need to have a slightly different version based on what they're looking for. Because again, you're highlighting what they're looking for. You're not lying, you're just highlighting those skills or those attributes that they're looking for in that job. Okay. Everyone then asks, what is a good way for my resume to look like? You're not supposed to read these. Don't worry about it. But this is it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your pretty version of your resume looks like. You can make it jazz up as best as possible, or as pretty as you want, in bullets and this, that, and the other. What makes a difference is when you're going through the applicant tracking system. So the applicant tracking system is when you are submitting your resume online and they say, upload your resume. And you upload your resume and things go helter-skelter. You know, fields are empty, you know, dates are wrong, things are just all in the wrong place. It's because of all that formatting that you did. So the challenge with this is that there are over 200 applicant tracking systems, and that was based on a networking meeting that I went to that Lynn Williams spoke at. She said there's over 200 different systems out there, and they're not standardized. So what might work for some may not work for others. One of the other things that's really bad about these systems is that sometimes they are the first line of defense, because again, if you are one person with 3 recruiters and the recruiter has 100 people and they put in for that job, there could be 150, 200, 500 people submitting their resume for the same job. So instead of HR trying to filter through 50 resumes, let alone 200, they let the applicant tracking system filter through and try to pick out the ones that most fit their job description. That's why you're using the word cloud to try to find out those keywords from the job description, and you're incorporating those into your resume. So you'll pop up. If you look, and this is just a link that I found, it says 75% of resumes will never be seen by the human eye. That is stressful and disconcerting to those of us who work really hard on our resumes to actually submit it out there, and you say, oh, I submitted and went to the black hole. That's because the applicant tracking system isn't finding you. Again, this is when networking really, really helps, because you have all these people who can actually vouch for you outside of the applicant tracking system. So I'm not going to talk about this. This is just another version of it. But here's how you can not beat, but do a little better with the applicant tracking system. The things you want to avoid will be lines, tables, solid borders, images. You want to avoid using headers and footers. You want to make sure when you actually are uploading the file, you are uploading a Word document or a text file. One of the things you do, you need to use those two types, is because the other ones are not really recognizable. Like a PDF, you try to upload a PDF, you're going to get absolutely nothing in your ATS system for a lot of them. So you want to try to stick to a Word document or a text file. One of the things you don't want to do is hide text in white. So according to Lynn, some of the applicant tracking systems look for that. So again, those keywords, people were putting them in like at the bottom of a page, and they will hide it in white text so it wouldn't be visible to, you know, the human eye unless you knew it was there. The applicant tracking system, though, converts the white text to black. So now it shows that you've just made, you know, you said agile, scrum master, PMP, project manager, and you put all those things in the bottom so that it will force or help lift your resume up higher in the list. And people consider that cheating because basically what you're doing, you're trying to game the system. So you don't want to hide any text in white. And you also don't want any text smarter than 11 points. So these are things to try to avoid to help reduce. It won't make it perfect, but it will help reduce some of the issues you're going to have with the tracking system. Some things you can do, and this is something that I found, and again, is not for every system, but here are the things that you can use, the different type of fonts. You can do formal headings, use a chronological format, month, day, year, full date really helps, and that will fill in a lot of those fields. You also want to do include, again, these acronyms, the long version of something, because when somebody puts in applicant tracking system, somebody might say MBA, someone else might say Masters of Business Administration. So you want to put both versions on your resume so that no matter how they entered into the system, they find you. So that's one of the challenges, is the job description may look one way, the applicant tracking system may look another way, and you have no idea because you're just submitting your resume. So cover all bases, put the full version out there of whatever it is you're trying to, you're including on your resume, and then put the acronym as well. And then again, save it as a Word doc or a text file. And because some of these are American-based companies, you want to use American spellings. One of the things that we're looking at. Okay. So that's your resume. Additional documents. One of them is called a professional summary. What I learned, which I kind of knew, my family has no idea what I do. They just said, "Oh, we know you're in IT," and that's because I go over and fix my mother's computer. So one of the things that you can do, because your family and friends, they really want to help. I know you cannot read this. It's not meant for you to read, but there is an example in the documents that I gave to David. But one of the things that you're looking at over here is that it's a one-pager. It's short and sweet. You want to give it to a friend or a family member or somebody you used to work with to help them help you. So you want to be very specific. You give them an idea of what your objective is, what you are targeting in terms of functionality or companies. You can even list, you bullet out what your strengths are, and then some target companies that you're looking for. So that just gives you an idea of what you can give to your family and friends so they can actually help you, because they really do want to help you. Okay. Another thing you want to do is cover letter. People always says, do I have to have a cover letter? It depends, right? If a job description is asking for a cover letter, then by all means include a cover letter. Keep it short and sweet. The bullets pop out to people. That's the format I like. You can do whatever format you like. But you want to make sure it highlights them. Consider that when people are looking at the cover letter, they're probably going to read the first third. They may get to the whole thing. People are busy. Consider how busy you were when you were working if you're not working now. So you want to make sure you kind of hit them hard at the top, then put some things in the middle, and then soften them up at the end and just wrap it up. If, however, you are uploading your resume through an applicant tracking system, make your cover letter the last page. Because if they ask you to upload your resume and the first thing they see in your resume is the cover letter, they may not get the page 2. So that was a tip someone shared. So make your cover letter the very last page when you upload it to the applicant tracking system, if you want to include it. Another thing that you can include instead of a regular cover letter, if they don't ask for one, is using a T letter. It's kind of like a cover letter where you have, a little summary at the top, but this part is a T. So on one side, what you're going to do is put in the actual job description. So they said they wanted blah, 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 blah. And then on the other side, you're going to list all the ways that you can fulfill that need that they have. Because Alex always talks about it's not about you, it's about what the company needs. So if they say, I need somebody, or we're looking for a project manager. So you can say, I'm a project manager and this is how I manage, or this is what I did, or here's the projects I worked on. It gives them a clear idea of what you are able to do. And it makes it easy for them to see because it's like boom, 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 boom. Okay. Other documents that you're going to have, you want to always send a thank you letter. You can send it through email. Alex suggests that you actually handwrite it. If you're me, you type it up, print it out, and then sign it. Again, my handwriting is horrible. But when you send a letter written in a post and it comes onto someone's desk, everybody likes mail, but we always get all that junk mail. So if they get to their desk and they have a letter saying thank you, it goes a long way and it makes it memorable. And then you can also go in there and talk about, again, here's what we discussed, here's where I can help, so on and so forth. But a thank you letter can go a long way. If you've done presentations and publications, you can also include and have a copy of that ready for you. I have a list of questions for the interviewers. So you never want to go into an interview without having your own questions. So have a list of them ready to go. Even if you have had a discussion with them and they've answered those questions, if they ask you, do you have any questions? You can say, well, I had these questions, but you already answered them, and then try to come up with some more. So let them know that you thought about it, that you had questions, they answered it, and then you have a couple more. There's also a document that I sent along where and I pulled these out of multiple, if you just Google standard interview question, you'll come up with all these type of lists and things. So I gathered those into a Word document. And then what I would suggest is you go through that and have like 2 or 3 answers for each of those questions, and then you're prepared. You don't want to sound like you're a robot, but you want to be prepared, because sometimes interviews can be stressful, and you want to make sure that you are covering the bases and you're sharing all the information you want to share with them. Okay. I also had a Word document that I collected all this information on. So sometimes, no matter how great your Word or text file is, when you use an applicant tracking system, you'll upload your resume and it'll still mess up. So you will have to go through and fill out some of these fields again. And when you do that, the last thing you want to do is have a typo with your own address or your phone number. So I put everything in Word and I would just copy and paste things over. It helps to have this information ready. I also had it up and available for me in case I was in an interview and someone was asking me a question and needed a date. I had that information handy for me, and it was easy to get to. Okay, so that is all of our additional documents. Now we get to Alex's branding. So Alex Freund talks about branding a lot. And the elevator speech and how important the elevator speech is. Anytime I start my elevator speech, the first thing I do, and you may have noticed hopefully at the beginning, when I start something, I try to smile. And one reason why I smile, it helps relax me. It relaxes my face, it relaxes my shoulders. It makes me feel more welcoming, and it makes you look more welcoming to the person on the other side. So do you ever hear the expression, there's more muscles used when you smile than when you frown? So it's good exercise too. Okay. I'm the only one laughing at that. All right. Anyway, so when you're doing your elevator speech, you want to make sure you speak up, it's measured, you're not talking too fast, you're not talking too slow. Have a couple different versions of it and a couple different lengths, because you don't know how much time you're going to have for people. And in different networking groups, they may give you 5 seconds, they may give you 30. You just don't know. If you have name triggers for somebody to help to remember you, I used to use Vanessa Williams, and then somebody started calling me Vanessa Williams. So I'm sorry, changing it to Venus, Serena, just anything that will get somebody to think Williams. And Valerie S. Williams. You want to talk about what you can do for the company. Alex goes on about this, that if you keep saying, well, I was in this company and I saved them $30 million and I did this and I did that and I did that. They don't really care. That's great that you did that for that company, but what are you going to do for me when you come to my company? So you need to find a way to turn that around, that here's what I did for this other company, and this is how I can leverage that knowledge for your company moving forward. Again, you want to add value. You want to make sure you don't mumble, you don't speed talk. Avoid rambling. So personally, I think when you're talking, you can see when people are like kind of glazing over. If not, maybe somebody can help nudge you, tell you if you're rambling or talking too long. That's really, really helpful. And you want to wrap it up. Like I'm going to wrap up on a slide. One of the other things that we have is email branding. So when you have your email, look for what is considered a new email provider, or an up-to-date, not an antiquated email provider like AOL or Prodigy. So Gmail or Yahoo are the ones. You want to make sure you're using a professional name. You don't want something like Princess or John's dad or anything like that. Keep it very professional. If you have a professional website, put that on your email branding. Put your badges on there. That's where I should have moved this. And then your LinkedIn email URL. Somebody mentioned that in one of my other presentations. So see, I keep adding to it. That's why this gets longer and longer. Add that LinkedIn URL to your email. One thing I want you to be aware of is if you are using Comcast or Verizon and you choose to switch to another provider because you're trying to save some money, or you're upgrading to Gmail or something, make sure you download all of your contacts first, because once you drop that provider, you lose everything. Make sure you go through your email and either forward that to your Gmail before you disconnect through Comcast or Verizon or whatever. But save it somewhere or print it out, do something so you don't lose contact information or maybe an important email. Right. The next thing you want to do is create a business card. On your business card, you can keep all of this information. I leveraged the back of my business card based on a business card somebody else gave me. And on the back, because you are out networking and you're getting out the house, you're meeting a lot of people, it helps that you can actually track where you met that person. Because when you go to connect to them on LinkedIn, you can say, I met you at this networking group on such and such date, and we talked about ABC. Or I met you at a restaurant, or I met you when you're cutting my hair, whatever it may be. So if you give that to them and they write that down when they connect to you, you'll be like, oh, that's who that person is. You meet a lot of people, you forget. On the back, I also use taglines, just little keywords that people can associate with me, so it can hopefully be a trigger in their mind. One of the things that you want to be careful of when you get the business card, on the front it can be laminated, but on the back you want to make sure it's not, so people can write notes on it. So be careful about that, and they'll ask you for that. I also took, if you notice, branding. This side of my business card, I just did a little cut and then made a little lanyard and put my name on it. Because every time we go to our networking group, they have you write your name on a little sticky and you stick it on your shirt somewhere. And if you're like me, I'm talking and moving, and I end up losing it half the time. So I made one up for myself and printed it out on my printer, no big deal. And now I carry it with me. I just pull it out of my pocketbook and clip it on me. All right. Here's a couple different places you can go to get business cards. They will vary in price based on color, size, style, you know, if you're using the front and the back, if you're laminating, if you're not. But these are all the different companies you can go to. I'm not advocating for any one or the other, but they're out there. There's also something called a Cam card. It's a business card reader app someone told me about. I do not have it. I can't confirm or deny how great it is, but sometimes they said what you can do is take a picture of it and it will automatically upload it into your contacts. But sometimes it depends on how it reads it. And, you know, it's not always successful, but it works a lot of times. The next thing you want to do is get a profile picture. Profile pictures are very, very important. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how my lighting looks just in the room for this. So you want to get a profile picture with great lighting. Here's my thing about these group shots. Who's Terry? And Terry, I'm not picking on you. I always just say Terry. Because Terry is could be a man or a woman. So try to avoid group shots because people don't know who they're meeting with. And unless you are in an industry where you are hosting parties and there's alcohol involved, avoid any pictures with alcohol in it. What you want to try to do is get a picture that's clean and crisp and clear, well lit. Especially in LinkedIn, you're really only going to get this part, you know, from your shoulders up. If that, maybe your head. If you notice all the pictures that I selected, people are smiling. Again, more muscles are used when you smile. See, that's my exercise for the day. So go ahead and smile and it makes you more welcoming. Nobody wants to hire somebody who looks surly. And with LinkedIn, your profile is only complete if you have a picture. So keep that in mind. All right. If you're not sure what your picture should look like, here's a list or a URL, a photo filler that someone told me about, where you can upload multiple images of yourself, and then you can have people give you feedback. And hopefully they'll be honest about it. Probably will be because they don't really know you, but they'll give you feedback and let you know which one might be a better picture. Now, I am not narcissistic, but I put this up here for a reason. I had long hair, as you can see at one point, and I cut my hair. And I would walk into meetings and people would be like, they would do a double take. So a friend of mine kept saying, when are you going to update your picture? You have to update your picture because your hair is different. And to me, it's not that big of a deal, but for other people makes a big difference. So you hear about all the time people go to these dates or even interviews and they look one way online and then you get them face to face and they look totally different. So use an up-to-date picture. If you change your hair, you colored your hair, you cut your hair. If you wear a lot of makeup, you don't wear a lot of makeup. I usually wear lipstick. I don't know why I didn't have it in the first one. I think I had just a lighter shade on now. I just go with the bold red like I am today. I know a woman said she had gone to a wedding and had a picture taken, and that was what she was using. And she showed it to me, and it was a beautiful picture. But that's not what she looks like on a day-to-day basis. And I told her that. I said, it's a beautiful picture, and she was still quite lovely without all the makeup. But it is a difference. So whatever picture you're going to put in on LinkedIn for your profile, make it as close to your normal day-to-day look as you're going to have. Men, if you wear hats and things like that, you know, when you're walking around, don't have a hat on because it covers your eyes and it's really hard to see. So you want to actually create a profile image that's going to show what you're going to look like when you show up for your interview. Okay, so that's branding. Sample documents. Some industries and some interviewers will ask you, do you have any examples of your work? And for me, this has come up a couple times with people who do marketing. And one woman I was talking to said she was asked to create this entire marketing plan for this company that she was interviewing with, and she felt very uncomfortable about it. So 2 things. One, if you already have an example, you can share it with them before, you know, when you're at the interview or at the end of the interview or whatever. And say, here's an example of my work. And that, again, gives them something else to think about and consider why they're considering you as a resource or a possible resource. The second thing is, if they are asking you to do a marketing plan, and that's the only way you're going to get the job, you have two choices: do the marketing plan or don't. If you are concerned about doing a marketing plan and they are going to steal your ideas, then maybe you shouldn't do it and you shouldn't work with that company. But it is a real concern. My thing is, if you give them a marketing plan and they utilize it for whatever reason and they don't hire you, it may not have been a good company to work with in the first place. And just chalk it up as an experience for yourself and move on. That's my personal opinion. You can take that, again, it depends, with a grain of salt. So now we're on to job searches. I'm going to sip while you read that. When you're doing job searches, just like you can Google and look on LinkedIn for, they can look on Google and LinkedIn for you, you can do the same for them. So what are they going to find when they do a search on you? So be careful about what you put on social media. On LinkedIn, it's really good to have information and articles out there. Keep it professional. That's what it's meant for. But you can actually retweet, or I'm sorry, put articles out there that talk to your industry. It shows that you're up to date on certain topics. AI is really big. George Pace, keep pace. Everybody knows that, right? George has a lot on AI, so for him, he puts that on LinkedIn a lot. It shows that he's up to date or on track with what's in the media or what's in IT. Twitter is also another good media account. If you are in something like marketing, Twitter is really good for you, and that's something you might want to follow up on, because they actually do post jobs on Twitter for certain companies, because they want to get people who are on a cutting edge when it comes to some of the technology. Instagram is really good for people who are into more visual type of jobs, whether that's photography or, again, marketing, things like that. Facebook, I would say keep that really to share things with your family and friends. You may want to lock that down. Remember, people can share whatever you have. So when you put something out there, that doesn't mean it just stays within your friends and family. You've heard where people have put something on a private group and then next thing you know is out in the world. So keep that in mind. Meetup.com. I put this on here specifically. It's a social account. What Meetup.com will do, it's not a boy meets girl type of thing. It's really talking about different groups out there, and the groups can be for fun. Like I've gone on some meetups for photography because that's my stress reducer, my relaxer, something that gets me out of the house and keeps me a little sane. And there's also groups out there like PSG. There's the Breakfast Club. There's networking groups out there. There's hiking groups out there. Some of the groups out there will require you to pay a fee to attend, and some of them are free. So just be careful about that. But Meetup is a way for you to get out of the house and see other things. You also have YouTube and Pinterest. David, I'm hearing some feedback again. So on YouTube, people say, why would I use YouTube? YouTube is good for how-to videos. Some of them are better than others. But if you want to do some learning, some training, or even to have some fun, you can go on YouTube. You'll see some things out there. What is it? Some Good News. So if you go to YouTube and look for Some Good News, and it's the guy that's playing Jack Ryan right now on Netflix. I can't think of his name. John Krasinski, maybe? Anyway, if you go to Good News YouTube and look for Some Good News, he has this, these couple of things he's doing once a week. And it's just some good news in COVID, and it's fun and it's light. So it can be interesting. You have Pinterest out there. Pinterest is really good. So if you're tired of cooking the same thing, you can go out there and get some ideas from Pinterest. You can actually see some fun things on Pinterest. Flickr and SlideShare. Flickr is more for pictures and things, and SlideShare is where if you've created a presentation that you want to share as an example, especially if it's too large to print and take with you on your interview, you can say, here, go to my SlideShare and send them the information as an example. Now, how do you know what social media would work for you? I know you can all read this. So it's really, really small, but when you get it, there is a link up here that will take you to the social media wheel, and it will tell you based on what your role is, or what you like to do, or what your job is. It will give you some suggestions of what social media applications you can use. But again, keep in mind, whatever you put out in social media is out there in the world, is out there forever. Can you tell I'm trying to push this? Because I want you to get a job, not lose a job. So that's one of the things you want to be careful about. Training. So everybody says, should I do training? Should I do training? How much training should I do? Should I put money out for training? It depends. So one of the things I like was this commercial from University of Phoenix. I am not promoting or denying them. I'm just saying that I like this commercial. So the thing with the commercial is you see the woman, she's working, you see the factory, they have all these people, and now they bring in a new tool, and little by little, everyone gets laid off, and then it's finally her turn. So really what you want to do is, even while you're working, look for ways to increase your skills, your knowledge base, and you can find all different ways to do that. And here's a list of them. Again, these are all in the slide, so don't worry about trying to write all this down. The ones with the stars are the ones that will are paid training sites that will require you to either their monthly fees, or you can buy a couple different courses or a pack of courses and things like that. The ones on the left, my favorite is my library card. I love my library. And because we're in this area is mcl.org. So you go to Mercer County Library, and it will cover all the libraries in the county, which is really great. And you can actually get anything from them. Through them, in my library card, I have access to eLibrary NJ, which is an audio, allows you to get audio books and movies and things like that. And then Hoopla Digital, you can also get audio books. I know people say, well, I have Audible. Well, Audible is great. If you can afford Audible, that's great. Library is free. When you're out of work, free is a key. So I go to, and I download them, and there's all type of things out there. The only thing about these two is you have what you have. You can make suggestions at the library to get certain books, but that doesn't mean they're going to get them. But if you do make the suggestion and they do purchase the book, you get it first. So that's something fun. There's also PSG of Mercer County. I think David mentioned this at the beginning. They have a professional development area, so they have a lot of information out there that you can share and use. I see David nodding. So if you see me looking this way, I'm looking at the people. You have One Stop with Unemployment, and we have a New Start Career Network that was mentioned before, and Ready to Work NJ. If you're out of work for more than 6 months, you can go to Ready to Work NJ and try to get some additional help. That's actually where I was able to go to get a federal grant to get my Scrum Master, funds to get my Scrum Master training that I received through BTII. So those are all the different things. I don't know why I don't have BTII on there. I need to add them. But those are all the different things that you can do to get help. The TED Talks I find are really, you can find some that are really inspirational, especially if you're having a down day. Okay. All right. We have another intermission and some Q&A.
Okay, just give me a minute to catch up to it. So a lot of activity in our chat. I'll just have to get through the questions. So what is your opinion on emails from recruiters requesting that I include personal references if I apply for a posting? She's not comfortable doing that.
I'm going to say if you're not comfortable with something, don't do it.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, that's me. If it makes me feel uncomfortable, I won't do it. So one of the things, okay, let me be very clear. My concern is if I'm giving them references to a job that they haven't even had me interview for, they're just looking for more people. They're just looking to get more names that they can reach out to for whatever reason. That's my personal opinion. That doesn't mean that's what they're doing. That's just my personal opinion. I am leery about people asking for things that you can't do. Another thing that some of the recruiters will ask for is the last 4 digits of your social. No, I don't know you. I'm not giving you anything. And one time what I did was, and someone suggested, well, give them the social a digit off, or just give them a different social. And I didn't want to do it at all. What I did was I asked that recruiter, why do you need it? And he couldn't answer. So you're asking me for the last 4 digits of my social and you can't even tell me why. And he then went and found out and came back with some reason. I don't remember what it was. But sometimes they say the recruiters, they use that so that when they submit your resume for a specific job, they are tracking you that way. And that way only one recruiter can submit your resume for a specific job. And that's how they keep you from doing it. So another reason why they keep that spreadsheet of who you submitted what with. So you only have one recruiter submitting your resume for a specific job. But I don't give out references until they have an interview for me and we're at the end of the interview.
So another question is, what's your opinion on how to put on a resume several contract positions over a 2-year period? And this was on contract for 1099 and W-2. So 2 different types of contracts.
Well, you don't have to tell them what kind of contract it is,
right.
But you just list it as you do any other job. People understand people are contracting, they're consultants. Most people understand that, when you're brought in as a consultant or a contractor, you're brought in for a specific job from 6 months to 8 months or whatever it may be, 2 years. And most people understand that. They don't expect people to, if they're a consultant, not to have multiple jobs. I don't think that's a problem. Just put it on there and you can say that was a short-term job.
And if it's consecutive, if you have 2 or 3 assignments in a row, you could group them all together under consulting and then have each of the subsections below it, each of the assignments. That's another way to organize it. You may want to speak also with a career coach who specializes in resume to get a good format for that. LinkedIn is also very good at grouping different positions within one organization. So you could have your LinkedIn profile say you're a consultant, and then your assignments under it all grouped together.
True, because mine are all underneath alpha, and I just have the date from beginning to end, and then I just, include task. I should say task from each of those into one.
Yep. Another resume question along the lines of the applicant tracking system. Do we need a resume version for the bot and a different version for the human eyes?
Yes.
Human eyes might be, okay, move on.
Yes. So that's when I said the pretty ones, and
right.
I put all those different versions. That's the pretty one. That's the one you want that you're going to hand to somebody when you get there, when you go for your interview. And then, which I'm going to talk about next, but then you have to have one that's just going to be used for uploading.
Okay. What would you suggest in place of a bullet points on your resume? And I guess that's for the machine resume. What would you suggest as place of a bullet point?
Don't know.
I'm thinking maybe a dash or an asterisk or something like that.
Yeah. I think they suggested for the applicant tracking system to use I want to say the dark bullet point that's filled in. That's okay. And I don't know if the star or the dash means something else. I can't remember.
Okay.
But you can use a bullet, just certain ones are more acceptable than others. Sometimes it's hit or miss because they're all different. No standardization.
And here's a question from Jacqueline. The question's in the context of JobScan, but I think the question's not really specific or doesn't have to be specific to JobScan. But when she uses JobScan, when comparing a resume to a job description, it seems to not recognize my degree, though it is one of several degrees stated in the job description. For example, not recognizing chemistry as a physical science. So that's probably, a limitation of the tool. But the question is it acceptable to add in parentheses physical science next to chemistry in a resume, like in the education section?
It depends.
Okay.
If you are sending your resume to someone who knows chemistry as a degree, I think they might say, why are the parentheses here? If you're sending it to someone who's not familiar with chemistry, then it would probably be appropriate.
Okay.
That's, again, my opinion.
Yep, thank you. And I'm just getting through, there's a lot of comments among people here, and that's fine. How many questions would you say to have ready for an interviewer? What are some smart interview questions to ask? How many should you ask?
Again, it depends. I love Marty.
Yeah, go work for him.
I think on that list, there's like 250 questions. I would say anywhere between 5 and 15 have ready in your back pocket, ready to go. How many you actually have time to ask will be the question. So sometimes the interviews run long. You don't want to overstay your welcome. So I would say 5 to 15 questions should be ready to go.
Thank you. How do you get a business to network contact in a virtual world? So how are you networking in the virtual world? LinkedIn.
So I'm getting back into LinkedIn. I've been off for a while, which is weird. I've been home I actually am working from home. But I have been going on LinkedIn, and I would just reach out to people, even when I was working, just to say hello, how you doing, what's going on. You don't want to be one of those people that only reaches out to people when they want something. So that's what I've been doing. I've reaching out to people. It's my friends. I've been having Zoom teenies, those kind of meetings, or just, conference calls. But with Zoom, you can set up a free membership, but you can only use it for like 30, 45 minutes or something like that. I can't remember. There's Skype. There's this GoToMeetings. There's just different things out there that you can use. But LinkedIn is my main point of contact or main application that I use.
Okay. Yeah, there are lots of groups that are opening virtually. There are people having virtual network meetings. So find them on LinkedIn, find them on meetup.com. I think you could be successful that way.
Yep, just like this. This is great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Has anyone been able to use Reference USA? What is the access process? I've been trying to contact my library, but have not received a reply. So I'm just going to address that because I think other people may have a problem. Reference USA is actually completely free to use in New Jersey from the website JerseyClicks. I believe it's .org, jerseyclicks.org. That's the New Jersey State Library System. And as long as you have a New Jersey library card, you will be able to log on and use Reference USA. If you're not able to contact someone at your library, obviously that's an issue with the library. Did it work? Is there a way to save chat and go to meeting? You know, you could do it in Zoom. Barbara, I don't believe so. I've tried it myself. Can you also include badges on LinkedIn?
That's a good question. I haven't tried. If you find out, let me know.
I would think you can put that in your education section.
I put in the education, but I haven't tried to put an actual badge in there. I have the badges in my email.
Okay. Do you feel political expressions ought to be curbed on Facebook for fear it might antagonize potential employer? So I would remove the Facebook and say, do you feel it should be curbed on social media?
Yes.
Okay, move on.
I'm just saying, whatever you put out there, be willing to stand behind it. That's it.
Right. This one gentleman I know, was a member of the PSG of Mercer County. He is personally very conservative. He landed a contract, and he was putting a lot of his very conservative views out on social media. And his company said, well, it's your opinion, you're allowed to do it, but we ask that you remove our reference on LinkedIn, or we ask that you don't put your social views on LinkedIn because it's associated with our company. So his employer was concerned. They didn't fire him, but just asked them to dial it back a little. So do be careful.
Yeah.
Any specific recommendations for older applicants, 50 plus, 60 plus? I was told not to wear a wristwatch. Younger applicants use their smartphones.
Ageism. Whew, how wonderful.
Next week.
Yeah, right.
Next week we have Marty Latman.
Oh, perfect. That is a good one to talk about. So Marty talks about that. I think Gary talks about that. Yes, the millennials, they don't use watches unless they're a certain type of watch, or they like certain type of watches. Now they're into the Fitbits or the Apple Watches and things like that. It does date you in certain ways. I still have watches. Sometimes I wear them. Sometimes, at one point, I was wearing a watch and my Fitbit just because I like my watches. I have since let go of my watches, but sometimes I wear them on special occasions that I just like the way they look. It can impact or influence someone. I think Gary can nod his head if he agrees with this, but he said if you are walking into an interview, even if you have your watch on, bring a tablet with you, and all you need to know is how to turn it on and turn it off, so that they can see, even though you have a watch on, you are used to and can manage technology, and that will help. So there's a way to combat it one way or the other.
Yeah, Abby Cohen has similar advice. Bring a tablet with you instead of a pad of paper. It makes you look more comfortable with technology. Do realize that there's a good chance that when you interview or network, you may be interviewing or networking with people younger than you, and they have different sensibilities. They're not right, they're not wrong, they're just based on their time. And you just making a first impression may want to look more in line with their thought process. It's not really fair, but that may be what sets you apart from others. And and personally, I like watches. I wear them all the time, but that's me. I'm the 50 plus, 60 plus person. So, okay, let us move on to the third portion. Hopefully the aliens are back from the restroom or whatever that sign is and got their cappuccino, and we can move on. Thanks everybody for your questions.
Yes, thank you. One of the things for interview prep is that you want to have a copy of your resume and T-letter. I'm going to do this a little out of order. So we were just talking about what to wear and what not to wear. I always have several outfits. When I do these presentations, I always wear red because red is my favorite color. If I can wear red to an interview, I will. Someone once told me that it was at some networking event, and they were saying, wear the color of the company you are interviewing for because it sends subliminal messages. So the company is green or blue, wear that color somewhere on your, on your personage, even if it's just a tie or a little scarf or something. I don't know if it works or not, but that was something fun. But in terms of dating and being aware of your surroundings, one time I went to an interview and I had on a pantsuit. And I noticed every woman, it was way back when, every woman there had on skirts. So it was a company policy for women to wear skirts. So when I went back for my second interview, I made sure I had on a skirt. I had a suit on that had a skirt on. So be aware of that. If you can find that information about the company online, do some research about the company that might help you. Or if you know somebody who works at the company, if they can give you feedback like that, that would help. But have several outfits, so you never know what you might want to wear. So I did have two. I went with my first choice this morning. But you also want to have a copy of your resume and or T-letter or cover letter, whatever you sent to that company, have that available and ready for you so you can hand it out. And the reason why I say this is one time I went to an interview and I was supposed to interview with two people. As we were walking down the hall, they literally picked up some guy and brought him into the room to be involved in an interview. He had absolutely no idea what was going on. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know what I was interviewing for. They just pulled him in. So I had a couple extra copies so that, again, I have multiple versions of it as well, or multiple copies of it, and then you can give it out to him. So while he was in the room, he actually read my resume and then could at least follow the conversation a little bit. He had no questions for me, shocker, but it's helpful to have that information with you. Learn what you can about the company and the interviewer or interviewers if you can. You can ask when they set up the interview who you're going to be interviewing with. They may or may not tell you, but if they do, then you can look them up on LinkedIn. You can do a Google search for them, see if they have something in common with you that you might be able to slide into the interview. Again, you're trying to make not just a professional connection with them, but also a professional connection, because you work with people. It is about connections. Again, have those questions you want to ask in. I'm saying about 5 to 15. You don't have to use all of them. And if they've actually answered some of them, you can say, oh, you answered like 5 of my questions already. Thank you. And again, it shows that you were prepared and available for the actual interview. Be very, very specific about what you do and do not want to do. They may offer you something that you're like, maybe, yes, no, I'm not sure. At one point, I was provided an opportunity for a full-time position doing something I was doing before, and it stressed me out just thinking about it. Not the job for me. So even though it was something I could have easily done and stepped into, I decided not to take that position because it was stressing me out just thinking about it. Now, again, know what you do and do not want to do. If you can map out the drive to your the location or where you're going to meet that person or in the interview, go ahead and do that. That way you know how long it's going to take you to get there. Factor in time of day so that you know traffic patterns and things like that. The last thing you want to do is be late. Practice body language. I actually made sure that I've watched myself do this presentation before, so I would know what I was kind of doing and where I was looking. So I'm trying very hard to look into the camera, which we'll talk about later. But practice your body language. I was in an interview once and I was hired, and then the manager came back and told me, because when I was interviewing you, I thought you were very, very nervous. And I was like, why? He said, because you moved around a lot. You see, I keep talking with my hands. And I was like, no, I wasn't. That's just how I talk. That's, I'm always in motion. And he said, well, I thought that meant you were nervous. So practice your body language, see what you're looking at. They always talk about this, crossing over your hands and your hands over your chest, and that shows you're blocking and all that. So read up on it, Google it, look for some information, and then practice with your friends. Because if you can actually practice, then you'll feel more comfortable when you actually get to the interview. When you're in an interview, please turn off your phone. Now, unfortunately, from home, I've turned off all my phones, but the base, I can't turn it off. So sometimes that'll go off. It went off when we were just starting the meeting, which was funny. But turn off your phone. You don't want to appear distracted or that you don't really care. Before you go into your interview, do the power pose. Amy Cuddy talks about this. You're going like this. And you can do it, I would suggest, in the bathroom. So one time I realized I was doing it out in front of a building, and I realized people could see me. They might think, what is she doing out there? So you don't want people to get a bad idea about you before you even walk in the building. So maybe if you can get to the ladies' room. But when you do this and do deep breathing, it kind of makes you feel better. Or you can do the Usain Bolt. It makes you smile, relaxes you, makes you feel a little bit more empowered. I'm sure David has, I'm not going to tell your story, David, about somebody doing something outside windows. So just be aware that there are windows when you're being interviewed. That people might be able to see you, and it might be the person who's interviewing you. So keep that in mind. Abby Kohut talks about being absolutely qualified. If you haven't seen her before, make sure you get to see her next time she comes through and does a presentation. But there is a link there to her site where she talks about being absolutely qualified. It talks about that ageism. Do you want Captain Sully flying a plane, or you want somebody who just got their pilot's license? So you want to talk about that. I know Gary talks about it as well. Sometimes you are interviewing with millennials. Some of them will recognize that they don't know everything. Shocker. And they are looking for someone who can actually come in and help and provide feedback. Even Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook brought in people who had more business sense than he did, so that he could help help them move the company forward. So just because you are older than the person you're interviewing with doesn't mean that's a negative. Okay. And if you've done all those things, know that you're prepared and be yourself, because again, you are going to really connect with different people. Okay. Now we have video calls. The first thing I want to say is know where all these buttons are. It's very, very important. I don't care what system you're on, if you're using Zoom, GoTo, whatever, find out how you can get to the point where you can mute your phone, turn on and off your video, and all those different things. They're in different places. They're top, bottom, left, right, center. Just find them. Because when you're on a call, you don't want to have this happen in the background. Right now, I think a lot of people are really being very flexible about this because everybody knows, the kids are home, schools are closed, people are being very understanding, but you still want to make sure that if you're doing an interview, you try to find the quietest place possible. If you're not sure how to do an interview online or through the internet like we are now, this is a YouTube video that I found that talks about how to look good in an interview and some things that you can do. If your desk looks like this or your office looks like this, mine does not, please hide it. If you have a nice background like this, please show it. So while I do have bookcases behind me, mine are not that nice and neat. They don't look that pretty. Note, I can't do this in GoTo Zoom meeting, or this GoTo meeting, but in Zoom, you can actually change your background based on the camera that you have on your computer or your phone. So it's not always possible, but you can actually change the background. In my last Zoom meeting, I put this up as my background. People are like, that looks great. I'm like, yeah, that's not my house. I have a lot of bookshelves, but they never look that nice and neat and spaced out and things like that. I have a lot of stuff on my bookshelves. And next time you watch, and I'm not sure if you're watching them, if you've been paying attention to all the people who are working from home on TV and the news anchors, I'm always looking behind them. So you want to make sure whatever's behind you isn't distracting, whether it's a picture or a poster or a bookcase, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure it's not distracting. So I'm always looking into people things. The other thing you want to do is work on your lighting. So you want to make sure you're not in shadow. So if you notice, I played around with a few different things here to try to get me lit appropriately. This is something I found. I'm not encouraging you to buy anything, but I'm giving you an idea. This is what I have on my computers. I have turned out all the lights in my office here. I put up my backdrop and I have this little ring light on top of my computer. See? And that allows me to have lighting on my face. So as a photographer, we all know that lighting is very important, and having light come from different places work. I got that from Five and Below. Worked on 2 AA or AAA batteries. So it can be very easy for you to buy something. You don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money on it. Now, interviews. We talked about this at the top of the hour before we started. You should be dressed from head to toe, or at least, if you have to stand up or if you drop. I love this commercial. I think it was for like Alka-Seltzer or Cold or something. But the guy sneezed and his computer dropped, and then everybody could see he had on shorts. And not good shorts. So keep that in mind. This actually kind of happened to me while I was out networking. I signed up for a training session, and I wasn't feeling all that good. And I was like, well, I signed up for the session. Nobody's going to see me. I can do the session. I can go back to bed. So I came down my robe and everything, and I turned on my computer, and it was the video was automatically enabled. And I was freaking out, like, oh my God. So this can happen in real life. What I did do before I got this little thing that slides back and forth and allows me to hide my camera, which now I can't get back. There we go. I had a little piece of painter's tape that I just folded up a couple times, and I just hid that over my camera. Okay, just make sure the sticky part doesn't get on your camera lens itself, otherwise it makes it all sticky, and then it's not a good look. Okay, but keep that in mind if you have video, because sometimes some application will automatically start them. All right. When you're doing your interview calls, I found this because one of the other things I've noticed, so when you watch, now you're going to notice this when you start seeing other people on TV. You want to see where they're looking. I'm tired of looking at people's noses. So lift up your computer so it's eye level, okay? But do you see these Pringle? This is not safe. This will lead you to having a laptop fall and somebody seeing your boxer shorts. So I love this because I think this gives you an example of, again, it should be eye level. But again, she has these on boxes. This is not stable. So make sure whatever you put it on is stable. I have lifted mine from the last time I've done this. And it makes me feel more eye level. And I'm not looking down. This is an example I pulled off of, you just see I just grab stuff off the internet all the time. This person, we can't even see their head, and it's bad lighting. This person is so far away, we can't see them at all. This person is a little far away as well, but they look like they're in an office or something, so they may not be able to control it. The lighting on this is, some of these people are a little hard to see. So you want to kind of keep that in mind when you're going through and setting it up. And what I would suggest is you do, if you set up anything, try to do a Zoom call or face-to-face or something with a friend and try to work out all these different things ahead of time, like David and I did when we were trying to make sure everything was going to work. Okay, so that's something about interviews. And again, make sure you're dressed. One person said that he was in an interview and they asked him to stand up and he didn't understand why. And I told him they wanted to make sure you were dressed. And they wanted to make sure you were dressed more than just, a shirt and tie, that you had on slacks or pants or something that would be appropriate for work. So keep that in mind, especially if you don't know how wide your camera is. All right. So preparing for an interview, we're all done. I want to suggest that everybody finds a way to reduce their stress, because this is a stressful time, whether you're looking for a job because you're out of a job, or you're getting ready to get laid off, or they're cutting back, or they're right sizing the company. Find something that's going to help you reduce your stress, whatever that may be. For me, it's photography. I'm trying yoga, but I look like these guys over here, not this woman here. You can go up on meetup.com, and on meetup.com, you will be able to find, again, free and or paid events, hiking, bike riding, whatever. There's groups out there. You get to meet people. One of the meetups that I went to was for photography in Philly. I met a woman. I didn't interview for her company, but she knew of a friend who had a company where they were looking for project managers, and I interviewed for that particular company. It didn't work out because several different reasons. And one of them, they were looking for somebody who has Scrum Master experience, which again I didn't have, which is why I had to get the training. But I actually did get in to an interview because I went to a photography meetup group. So again, broaden your horizons. There's just ways of tying things in. We'll find a ways to get there, because once you do that, you will be hired. You will get there. You just have to keep knocking on those doors, keep knocking on those doors, keep trying, keep following up with people, look for things, and then eventually you are going to land. And that's what's going to get you there. Once you've landed, pay it forward. I keep coming back to my networking groups. I keep trying to stay on track with people and connect with them, and continue to help them where I can. And if I can, people are like, oh, I want to get into BMS. Do you know such and such? BMS is huge. It has like thousands of people working there. Sometimes I know them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I can put people in contact. I was able to do that for one person, another person I couldn't. So you can do what you can, but pay it forward somehow, some way. This is my way of paying it forward. I will not be working. I haven't been working all morning because I've been doing this presentation. And to me, that is worth it. Okay. And at that, you're hired. Here's my contact information. We've been talking for 2 hours. Can you believe it?
Well, it's not 2 hours. not all just you. Only have a couple of questions left. How much time should you spend preparing for an interview?
You know what I'm going to say, right?
Okay.
It depends. It depends. As long as you need to prepare for the interview. If it takes you, you got to get your resume together. You got to print that out. You got to pick out your outfit. You got to, jog around, maybe not. You got to prepare your interview questions. You may want to look up, again, your interviewers. You want to look up the company itself and see what you can learn about the company. because going into the interview and knowing something about the company gives you a leg up. So it depends on how long it takes you to get all that done.
Yep, you certainly want to be very well prepared. Certainly several hours, I would think. It could be more. It depends. You're right. Any suggestions if you wear glasses and you get glare?
If you need your glasses to see, you have to wear them glare or no glare.
Right.
You can play with them and see if you can move them to the, down a little bit, or you can move them back, angle your computer one way or the other, or if you have a clip-on camera, try to angle it so you have less of a glare. But people understand you have glasses, that it's a camera, there's lights, there's glare.
Certainly when it comes time and you need new glasses, see if you can get an anti-glare coating. Tends to be very effective. But as Valerie is suggesting, maybe change the position of the lighting. You do get lighting or light emitted from the screen in front of you. If you have a monitor where you can reduce the frequency or the power of that screen, might reduce some of the glare as well. Are there standard questions you could ask at any company? I think you got a document about that.
Yeah, there's a whole list of questions you can ask. You want to understand what their culture is, you can ask them that. One question I always interview with, and I can't remember who told me this, so again, forgive me if you know who it is, let me know. I always end the interview with, is there anything in this, is there anything that we didn't discuss? And is there anything that would prevent me from getting this particular position?
Sounds like Alex.
Yeah, it could be Alex.
Yep.
It probably is Alex.
Coach Alex Freund.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably came up in a class that I took with him. So I think culture, that's the one thing I can think of.
Well, Valerie, thank you so much. I am so glad you were a part of our program today and gave this presentation. Don't worry about the 2 hours. It was chock full of incredible, helpful, and important information. I think it was just helpful and beneficial for everyone. And of course, people can go back a little later and watch that online. I just want to wrap up the program a little bit. Valerie has provided us 10 documents. Sorry?
Wait a minute. One more tip.
Yeah.
If you are struggling, because again, you want to put your camera at eye level, and I keep trying to look up. If you see me looking down or around, because I'm looking at things on my screen. Someone said, put like a little picture of a person up here, especially if you're doing one of those interviews where it's just there. It pops up on the screen and asks you a question, and then you record your answer. Put a person up there that's going to make you smile.
Oh,
so you feel like you're talking to someone.
That's a good idea. Yeah, nice tip. So just want to also let you know, or let folks know, Valerie did provide 10 documents and handouts, plus her slide deck. It is on the PSG of Mercer County website. On the right side of every web page is a sidebar, and it has meeting presentation documents. That's the link. Click on that link. You'll get access to all of our recent presenters, and so you'll have access to her handouts there. There were a couple of questions, resume questions. You could reach out to the couple of career coaches that are active with our group. Gary Landy is one. He specializes in resume, LinkedIn, and cover letters. Alan Kirshner is in our group. Alan is more of a generalist, but also helps with resumes and cover letters as well. People were asking, which is the best social media site? Valerie's stock answer, as is Marty's, it depends. You want to be in a place where your career typically publishes, your industry, your customers, clients, and so forth. So you want to at least start out there. Social media is tremendous. There's a million sites out there. Be where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Valerie did mention, which thank you very much, on our website, PSG of Mercer County, we have a page. It's called Professional Development, and on there are access to 35 e-learning websites. Not all of them are free, but a lot of them are, or as Valerie indicated, sometimes you don't need a subscription. You could just, when you have to pay, you just pay for the course of interest, so it could be cost saving that way. I want to let you know what's coming up for the next couple of weeks. Next week, so some ageism questions came up. Marty Latman will be presenting. So if you didn't hear "It Depends" enough from Valerie, you'll hear it even more from Marty next week. But he puts always his answers in context. But he will be talking about Ageism Exists, the elephant in the room. This is such a popular program. It's very timely for a lot of us. So you may want to participate next week, next Friday, at our PSG of Mercer County meeting. That's May 8th. The following week, May 15th, middle of the month, Michael Goldberg will be presenting Knockout Networking. Boy, is this a fun program. And you'll have the opportunity to learn or ask him questions also, since it came up, how do you network in the virtual world if we're still self-isolating and being asked to stay at home, not able to be out at events as much. So he's going to have some great advice. While we are at Art Home, there are lots of other groups that do continue to offer virtual meetings. You can see our cousin company called PSG of Central New Jersey. Their website is psgcnj.biz. They meet every Monday at 10:30 in the morning. They're going to be talking about mastering the interview on Monday, so just 3 days from now. The Careers and Transition Group, they also meet every first and third Saturday at 8:30 in the morning. They're the group that usually meets at Christ Church in Short Hills on Saturday morning. They've gone virtual. So you need to go to their webpage, which is on the Christ Church website. So just Google like Careers and Transition Short Hills or Christ Church Short Hills. You'll get to their webpage and they'll have all the connection info there. And the Breakfast Club of New Jersey, another popular group, they meet on the second Saturday of every month. They're meeting on May 9th at 8 o'clock in the morning. Sharon Busey is going to be talking about advance, secure, or transition your career with high demand certifications. So both online and offline, those will be certification oriented for getting your career and getting yourself a bit more relevant in the current marketplace. So do want to let you know, Valerie's slides, remind you, Valerie's slides are online. They are right now. The video will be online this afternoon. There'll be a link in our meeting presentation document as well as on our YouTube channel. You are welcome to join our LinkedIn group. Remember, our LinkedIn group is not for everybody, it's just for you. So if you and I haven't met, if I don't know you, even though I see a request for you to join, I suggest you send an email to psgofmercercounty@gmail.com and just remind me that you attended this presentation and that's why you've requested to join the LinkedIn group. Also, if you're new to PSG of Mercer County, you are not yet on our emailing list. We do send out a weekly email each Monday. Also send us an email, psgofmercercounty@gmail.com, just requesting to join our email list, and I will get you on that list right away. So once again, I want to thank Valerie so much for being a part of the group. She did take time out of her working day, although her bosses don't know, so don't tell anyone. It's our
They know.
Oh, they know.
They know.
Very good.
I told them I was doing something for one of my networking groups. I didn't tell them what I was doing, but
very good. Well, thank you for that and being a part of helping us. And so I want to say thank you again, and everyone have a good week. Stay well, stay safe, stay at home, and we hope that we see you very soon. And if not sooner, we will see you online next week. So bye everyone, have an Aloha Friday.